Hello, yeah, welcome back. I haven't done a video for a little while, so I thought I'd do one now. Yeah, I'm in the process of considering then, which I will have to at some point, is replacing the cartridge that I'm using on my turntable. It's I don't know whether we can actually see it in the background. The camera's slightly dropped. Oh, that's behind there. Anyway, yeah. So when I come to make any sort of change to my system, I like to do a lot of research first of all, and to try and gauge some opinion from people, and if anybody's got any sort of suggestions as to what I should be looking at in terms of a replacement cartridge, certainly I'd welcome those ideas and what have you. But so it's something that I'll be probably doing within the next 6 months. I'm certainly not doing it immediately, because only now I'm kind of starting my journey of looking into what I should be getting next time. So I just thought I'd go through some of the cartridges that I've used over the years, and I can't remember the first cartridge. When I bought my Lynn Sondek LP12, it came with a basic plus tone arm, and I had an Audio Technica cartridge. It wasn't the 1895E. I'm pretty sure it was the next one up. I can't remember the one it was, but it was certainly a cartridge which was at the time around about £60. I had that in my system for a considerable amount of time, and eventually it needed changing, obviously. They don't last forever, the stylus profiles, and the amount of time I was using it, the record player, which I still use it almost daily now, things will need changing. So I could have changed the stylus for a new stylus, but instead I bought this. This is an Ortofon. This was an Ortofon series 510 Mark II. Yeah. And I recall when I put it in that there was a difference. It's amazing, really. We change components. If you listen carefully, you will hear subtle differences. There was certainly a difference. Now, I think possibly, obviously, the Audio Technica, the stylus was worn, and putting this in, it was like, it made I thought, wow, this sounds great again. And I had this in my system for a good few years. I even, when the stylus got worn, I bought a replacement stylus for it and fitted it on, and I was right again then for another few years. So many years had gone past then with my Lynn Sondek LP12. I've had it now for, I'm trying to think, it must be coming up to 35 years now, the turntable. So eventually that Ortofon needed changing, so I thought I'd go up the Ortofon range a little bit, which led me to get this one, which is the Ortofon 2M Blue. And I remember at the time fitting this to my turntable, and then carefully adjusting it to line up and what have you, and playing it for the first time. I thought, wow. At the time, this was certainly the best I did use in my system. It was very, very relieving, a lot revealing. It was very sort of detailed. It had a good punch in the bass. Just at the time, I thought, wow, I'll keep this in my system for many years. And when it comes to changing the stylus profile, all I got to do is take this, swap the stylus for another one. And it did. I didn't change the stylus when it came to the point of changing. I moved to another cartridge, but certainly I enjoyed it. It's an elliptical moving magnet stylus, and all these were all moving magnet styluses. So when it came to actually change the cartridge, I know there was a drift in the performance, and it wasn't after years and hours of use. Eventually, there was certainly a noticeable change in what was going on, and I changed it. I went online and I tried to do some research, and I was a little bit unsure what I was going to do. But I bought a used cartridge, which I thought, well, you know, I'll try something completely different. I'd done some research, and I ended up with this, which I've still got, obviously. This is a Nagaoka MP11 boron cartridge. So it was a used cartridge. You can see the boron on it there. A used cartridge. I thought, well, I'll give it a go. You know, I'd read quite a lot about Nagaoka, and some of the comments I'd read, I thought, wow, I could probably like having that in my system. So I thought I wouldn't spend too much. I'd want to try for a short while, and I bought this used, and wow, what a difference. A complete different presentation to what I'd previously heard from any of the cartridges that I tried previously. This produced what I would say is a much richer, warmer sounding presentation. The mid-range was very vivid, and it just got me really engaged with what I was listening to a lot more. And the sound of drum kits sounded that much better than I'd heard them before. Cymbals sounded a lot more natural sounding on the drum kits, and vocals were a lot more present. And certainly when I'm listening to music, for me it's all about what I'm getting out of that space that's sort of in front of me, that the speakers are producing, whether it's between the speakers, to the side of the speakers, and how deep, and the scale. I really enjoyed it. Wow, this is really different. And I got listening to lots and lots of jazz. I was buying lots of jazz records at the time. I got really interested in listening to like Sir John Coltrane, and going through sort of his series of records, and Miles Davis, some of the, the early stuff especially. I'd already had some Dave Brubeck or what have you, and then Sonny Rollins, and then a whole host of others. And I think it all came about because of the presentation of what this cartridge was bringing. I really enjoyed it. So after a while I thought, well, it'd be worthwhile moving up the Nagaoka range. Now this one is the MP11 boron, so it's got the boron cantilever. Now the current range of MP11 cartridges, you've got the MP110, which isn't a boron cantilever, the MP150, which doesn't have a boron cantilever, and then you get the MP200, which does have a boron cantilever. So from the 200 upwards then, see? So I was very fortunate enough to see a used cartridge, but this was a Nagaoka MP50. Now back in the day, the MP50 would have been the top of the range Nagaoka moving iron cartridges. They are moving iron, so you got your moving magnet, you got your moving coil. These are a moving iron cartridge. And yeah, I mean, the stylus profile on the MP50 was a lot more improved from what was on the MP11 boron, which is an elliptical stylus, I believe. So it did take, as all cartridges do, it did take it needed particular attention to setting up, installing on my tone arm, setting up, making sure the alignment was right, doing some fine adjustments, listening by ear and what have you, checking the setup. As all cartridges, to get the best out of them, you need to get them set up as perfectly as possible. The difference between the MP50 and the MP11 boron was, even though they shared the same sort of characteristics in terms of like that richness and that warmth and that mid-range that I really noticed with this, the MP50 was a little brighter, I found. Extracted a slightly more detail as well. And I really enjoyed having it in my system. Unfortunately, it had been used quite considerably before I bought it, and I had it, I think, just over probably 18 months, and then I noticed certainly a drift in its performance. It seemed to me as though that the stylus then had worn, and I wasn't going to buy a new stylus for it, so I went back to using the MP11 boron. Great. So then I thought, well, I'll try something different. So I then bought, the next thing I bought was a Riga Exact cartridge, which has a very good, like an advanced stylus profile. So I used that in my system for a while, and I did enjoy it. I'd say it was a warmer sounding cartridge than the Autophon 2M Blue that I tried, but certainly not as rich sounding as either of the Nagaoka cartridges that I tried. And even though I enjoyed what the Riga Exact cartridge brought to my system, I went back to the MP11 boron, and the Riga Exact then was sold on. So after a while, as all styluses do eventually, I noticed a slight drift in the performance of the MP11 boron. I thought, well, what do I do now? I can't get an MP11 boron stylus new, so it would have to be an MP200. So I thought, well, I'll try and listen to something else. I'll try and get something different, and I went for the Audio Technica 440 MLB. I bought that cartridge. It's got the very fine microline stylus profile, and I enjoyed it. It was different again. It was a lot more, whereas the MP11 boron, the soundstage was a little narrower but deeper. The AT440 MLB was certainly a little bit more forward sounding, and a little bit, well, I'd say, wider sounding in terms of its soundstage. It was nowhere near as warm or rich sounding as the 440 as the MP11 boron or the Nagaoka cartridge, shall I say. But it was very detailed. It did again require careful setup, and those microline styluses need to be absolutely as accurately installed as possible to get the best out of them. So I had that in my system for a while, and then I thought, well, I need to revisit that sort of richness of sound that I was enjoying with the Nagaoka. So I was thinking of buying one of the mid-range Nagaoka cartridges with the boron cantilever, which would have been the MP200. But instead, I found another used low hours cartridge from somebody that had hardly used it. I think they might have been keeping it as a spare cartridge or what have you. But eventually bought this cartridge, which is a Denon DL110. which is the cartridge that I am currently using at the moment. This is a high output moving coil cartridge, and I installed this on my system, and it kind of sits where my sort of thoughts then on this, it sits somewhere between the Nagaoka and the Audio Technica, in so much that it produces that kind of spacious soundstage. It's detailed, but there is that nice richness in the tone, not as much as the Nagaoka cartridge, but it kind of gets it's very neutral sounding cartridge. So it's been in my system now for, I think it must be just over 2 years now. And although I'm not seeing a drift in its performance at all, in 6 months' time, given the history of what I've seen before with what's happening to my cartridges, they tend to last like 2-3 years or whatever, and the stylus needs changing because I play my records quite a lot. But I've certainly enjoyed having this in my system. It's quite a well-known cartridge, a Denon DL110. It's been in production for a very, very long time. And it's still extremely popular. It gives like an entry-level sort of example then into what moving coil can bring. And I've really enjoyed having it in my system. It's been a good cartridge, and if need be, and I'd certainly try another one of these if my budget was limited. Certainly, but after installing this, I thought, wow, let's go back to the Nagaoka. Of course, the stylus had worn on this, the MP11 boron. So I thought, well, I'll get this, which is a JNP 110. This is a Nagaoka JNP 110. This is not a boron cantilever, but it's the stylus which comes with the current MP 110, which would have been the old MP11. Now remember, the comparison between this isn't a boron cantilever, yet what was on here was a boron cantilever. So I tried this on it, and I just, yes, that richness in tone was all there again, and that is definitely evident. That wonderful mid-range was all there, but I didn't find it extracting the detail that the MP11 with the boron cantilever did. So I think straight away, for me anyway, I began to understand that what significant improvement the boron cantilever brought to the Nagaoka range of cartridges. So, which probably brings me on to what cartridge I'm going to get next. Now, because I enjoy the MP11 boron so much, one of the options I've got is getting a Nagaoka MP200 moving iron cartridge. That's one of the options, and I've only sort of started my research at the moment, because also I've enjoyed the Denon DL110 so much as well. I really enjoyed having this cartridge in my system. The other one I'm thinking of is the Denon DL, what's it called now? 301 Mark II, might be wrong, but it is a low output moving coil. So with that in mind, I'll need to look at using a phono stage that can accommodate low output moving coils, which, you know, it requires another investment. I have got a phono stage that does moving magnet and moving coil, but I've lent that out to somebody at the moment, and but I do like my HiFi phono stage that I'm using now, albeit it only does moving magnet. I believe my HiFi phono stage as well is set at 47 ohms, so basically it's a very rich sounding, it's a very nice sounding phono stage, and I certainly remember when having tried a few different phono stages that the HiFi for me was the standout at the time of the ones I'd used, and I've got no real need to switch from that particular brand at the moment, but who knows. So the other one I'm thinking of at this stage is a HiFi cartridge. Now HiFi do a high output and low output moving coil cartridges. They do ones with the elliptical stylus, and I've read some terrific reviews on those cartridges, and that would probably suit my budget. So I've got to do some more research. Gold ring is another option. Never used a gold ring cartridge at all in my system, so I'll need to read up on that. So yeah, so if anybody's got any thoughts or suggestions, I mean the budget I've got is up to, you know, 350. I don't really want to go much more than that. If I can possibly manage it within that budget, I'll be pleased. So yeah, so for now that's what my plan is. So it might take me around about 6 months. I mean, no rush to change, but certainly, you know, my sort of research has already started. So anyway, for now, again, thanks for watching the video. Bye bye.